When I was young, I had the privilege of being invited to a professional meeting in Warsaw, Poland, and I was very sophisticated and smart as a world traveler. I had traveled outside of the country before, so I knew what to do to prepare to travel. And because I was such an independent woman, instead of going straight to the people who were my hosts, I said, I'm going to spend a day running around Warsaw all by myself. So I did what every sophisticated, wise traveler does. I got out the guides to Poland, the guides to Warsaw, the language phrase book, so I could say proszę pani, and I could ask for a room in Polish, and I could do what I needed to do to get around by myself. And I made a list of the favorite museums I would go to and the best hotels. So I flew off to Warsaw, and I landed and got out of the plane area and into the money-changing area, and I did what every good tourist should do, right? I went to get some local currency. Well, the currency in Poland was zlotys, so I exchanged almost all of my cash to zlotys. I did save a $5 bill in American money. The zlotys, you know, I figured out, I had studied, so I knew how many zlotys were in $10, so I could deal with that. And I walked outside to catch a cab. And you've done that before. You get out of the airport, you walk out, and there's a row of cabs. Well, in this particular airport, there was just a row of cars. None of them were marked like cabs. They just were ordinary cars. So I walked back in, and I talked to the woman at the money-changing window. And she said, oh, it's okay. People are using their own cars just to pick up a few extra zloty, some extra money. It's okay. So I walked outside and gave my suitcase to a man that put it into his sedan in the trunk and got in the car with this person and drove off towards Warsaw, towards the center of the city. And I didn't know enough Polish to have a conversation, but he knew enough English to say, do you have American money? And I said, I've changed my money into zlotys, so I have zlotys. And he said, do you have German money? I said, no. And he said, do you have French francs? And I said, no, I have zlotys. I have zlotys to pay you. And I thought he was going to stop the car and kick me out, and I didn't really understand why. But he, with a stern and somewhat upset look on his face, drove me to the center of the city, and I got out, and there was the Forum Hotel, the largest, most modern and westernized hotel, according to the travel books, in the city. So I went to the desk, and I said, I'd like a room, please, and handed my passport to the person behind the desk. And the person behind the desk said, we have no rooms. We have no rooms. I said, it's such a large hotel. You don't have one room for one person for one night? We have no rooms. So I took my wheelie suitcase and went to the next hotel in downtown Warsaw, and I went through the same ritual. Do you have one room for one person for one night? We have no rooms. Oh. Well, I went to the next hotel, and the next hotel, and the next hotel, and by now I was getting to the fringe of downtown Warsaw, and the hotels were getting smaller and a little less than reputable looking, and I finally went into this small hotel, dark lobby, small lobby, and said, do you have one room for one person for one night? And I got the same answer. We have no rooms. Well, by this time, as the sun was going down in the west, and I was feeling my sophistication and worldly wisdom just draining away, I went out on the street corner and I did what no traveler should ever do in a strange city. I propped up my suitcase and I opened the map. Once you do that, you're telling the whole world, vulnerable person. Come on, what do you got for me? And indeed, shortly after I opened the map, a very pleasant older woman came up to me and started talking to me in broken German. Now I know a little bit of German, but not enough to converse with her. And then I tried to talk to her in English and Polish, but that didn't work either. So I got the feeling that she was offering me help, and I really wanted help. So I flagged down a younger couple of people, and who I know they learn English in school, so I said, could you please help us? We can't seem to communicate. I think she's offering me a room in her house, but I'm not sure. And so they translated, and she said, the young man said, yes, she's offering to let you board in her house for a night. And they said, well, isn't that kind of unusual? I've been having trouble finding a room. And he said, oh, no, people are doing that all the time to earn just a little extra money. So I asked them to ask her how far it was. Not far at all. So we got on the streetcar. It wasn't named Desire. We got on the streetcar. It might have been named Fear, because as I barricaded myself behind my big old suitcase, it was getting bigger by the moment. I barricaded myself so that nobody could see. There were little tears falling down my cheek as we got further and further and further away from downtown Warsaw. We passed the suburbs. We went to an empty area. And then we arrived at a settlement of high-rises. And there we got out. And I followed behind her with my suitcase, kind of going to whatever my fate was going to be. And we got up into the hotel room, and she showed me the little room where I would stay, and a postcard from someone else who was also from Minnesota, who had stayed with her once, and must have lived because she had sent the postcard. So I got to the place where I was feeling like, okay, I'm going to survive this. It's going to be okay. In the middle of the night, around 2 a.m., I hear loud male voices in the next room. And I woke thinking, this is it. It's all over for me. I don't know what's going to happen, but it can't be good. And I kind of just said, oh well. and after a prayer, went back to sleep. The next morning, there were no men. There was no older woman, but a younger woman was in the house, and she showed me where to get coffee. And she said, I will walk you to the bus stop. And I went, okay. And I got ready, and I took my wheelie suitcase, and I went to downtown Warsaw, where I dumped my suitcase at the train station and went to enjoy the sights of Warsaw. And eventually later that day I appeared before my hosts, who were very embarrassed when they heard what had happened to me, and put me up in the Forum Hotel, where I could have gotten a room that first night. You know, I could have gotten a room. I just didn't know that it was 1980 in Poland, and solidarity had just begun, and every person in Poland who was fearful was trying to get French francs, German marks, or American dollars so they could flee what they were afraid of, which was another invasion as in Czechoslovakia in 1968 by the Soviets. What I didn't know, sophisticated world traveler that I was, is I had walked off the page of a travel book onto the page of history. I didn't know.